Well, welcome everyone to another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart, and I am fresh off of a trip. I literally got in last night, probably a little bit after midnight from Wisconsin. I had an opportunity to go. I was invited to go be a guest speaker at a Whole Foods symposium, which was absolutely fantastic. Very honored to be able to do that in front of my colleagues, my friends. And it was up in Wisconsin at the Standard Process headquarters. And they brought in a bunch of practitioners, a bunch of seasoned vets. So it really kept me on my A game. If any of you are listening, it was great to have you in the audience. What an incredible group of men and women there. A lot of chiropractors, some acupuncturists, nurse practitioners, PAs, I think some vets as well. A little bit of everything there. And it's really interesting to see what's taking place nowadays, where more and more practitioners from some of the obvious lines, the chiropractors and naturopaths and whatnot, but also from, we'll almost say, the other side of the street. We're seeing nurse practitioners and PAs in droves moving in the direction of holistic and natural care. It's almost as if this entire Pandora's box has been reopened. And now so many people are looking in it and seeing how to help patients in just a different way. And what I'm really excited about is that so many are not only doing that, but they're taking it to the next level, and they're looking for the very, very best tools. And many of you know that I use Standard Process, not exclusively, but for the most part, it's my primary what I have in my toolbox with the vitamins and the herbs and whatnot. And it's because they get the best soil in the world. There's not even really a close second. They have the best soil in the world, which means they are able to produce the best nutrients for us to supplement in our bodies, whether we're taking care of deficiencies or toxicities or whatever it may be. With that being said, I'm going to dive in today. So the topics that the primary topic that I spoke to there was how not to die, which is an interesting conversation. And we all know that we're going to die, but nonetheless, how not to die is a very interesting conversation. And the road that we ended up traveling down, there's many different roads that we traveled down in terms of the conversations that we were having. Yet the one I want to share with you today is about getting results, and that is for our personal health. So if you're listening to this and you're a practitioner, I want you to put on the lens of not only for your patients, but for yourself as well. This is very important. And then if you're not a practitioner and what you're listening to this for your own personal benefits, awesome. Think of this for yourself, but also for the people around you that you love and care for, because it gets very interesting when we talk about results. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We are trying to get a result, an outcome that we desire. We are trying to, maybe it's lose weight, maybe it's have more energy, maybe it's to put more muscle on your body, get rid of headaches, sleep a little bit better, balance hormones. The results often they're going to reflect to some degree identifying our why. And this is so important. So when you go on your health journey, a good question to ask, or hopefully your practitioner is asking you, is, why do you want to get rid of your neck pain? And it's not because of the pain. I know that sounds silly, but it is, why would you want to get rid of neck pain? And really it'll boil down to something like this. Well, because of the neck pain, I can't practice jujitsu. I can't pick up my kids. I can't perform at work. I can't focus. So rarely is it just the symptom. There's usually a bigger why to it. And then as you get on in life, and this is a conversation we had a fair amount of conversation this weekend with, is what's the next phase of life. So if you're 40 years old, you listen to this, 50 years old or more, there's different conversations that you start to have with yourself. You start to think about, how much longer do I have on this earth? What's coming next? Like, I don't heal like I once did. There's just things that are changing. And our why starts to expand a little bit, meaning why would we do certain things? Why would we start taking care of ourselves before things are broken? And listen, I get it 100%. When I was young, I thought I would just live forever and everything would be perfectly healthy and there was nothing that could stop me. Now that I'm not 20 anymore, I recognize, maybe I heal a little bit slower. Doesn't mean I'm going to throw in the towel, and I do not blame things on age, but I do recognize that age is a component that's kind of working against all of us to some degree. Now, yes, we can use age to our benefit in terms of becoming smarter and more experienced in things, and we need time and age together to do that. But inherently, the human body does have an end result, and that end result is that we will at one day pass. The key here is how much inflammation are we carrying along the way? So when we add the inflammation with the aging, that is what we call inflammaging, and that is what we're trying to avoid. Now, with that being said, we're going to sidestep from all of that. That was kind of the gut of the conversation that we had. And then from there, we got deep into labs. And just real quickly, folks, with labs can show us some very, very important things. Okay, I don't know if you noticed that, but we just had a little dog mix up, so I had to hit pause button, but we're back at it. So labs can show us some very, very interesting things over time, especially with the amount of labs that we can pull. Now, not even the amount, but with the precision that we can utilize labs now, we can predict very accurately what direction we are heading into. And the analogy that I would share with you is this, is if you are trying to picture wherever you are right now and you are headed north, you're going to probably end up in Canada. Let's say you don't want to go to Canada. Probably need to go in a different direction, but you would like to know if you're headed to Canada, especially if you don't want to go there. If your intention is to go to California, but you're headed to California, I'm headed to Canada, and then we showed you, hey, listen, this is where you're headed, you would probably move your car and send it west and go to California. This is exactly what labs can do for us. If we have data can then help us tell what to do next. Now, with that being said, I mean, this conversation today is not going to be about that. I'm going to lead you down the road of some very specific things. There's 3 things that we want to pay attention to as we're on this journey of trying to get results. And I don't care if the results are, I want to sleep better, I want to lose weight, I want to put more muscle on my body, I want to balance my hormones, I want to, you name it, I want to incorporate longevity. No matter what it is, there's going to be 3 things. And this is basically easy math for you to help you decide whether or not you want to raise your bar and speed up your results, or make sure that you're heading in the right direction. Or maybe it'll help you understand why sometimes you're doing things and you feel like you're not getting results at all. So let's dive into that just a little bit. So anyways, with the labs, if you're interested, there are some very, very specific labs we run now that we can make some pretty close predictions in terms of longevity, especially to the 4 horsemen of disease, things like cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, neurodegenerative diseases, cancers. We know what markers are telling us that we're headed in that direction. So if that's something of interest to you, I'll make sure that we have some type of connection in the show notes here today. All right, let's talk about the 3 things that are going to really help you solidify how quickly you may get the results that you're looking for. And if for some reason you're not getting the results that you are trying to achieve, maybe you look at these 3 things and see where you might be able to make some better choices and level things up. All right, number 1 is this. So there's the 3 things, and I'll walk through these just a little bit. If you do one of these things, of the 3, really, really good, you're probably going to get about 33% of the potential results that you can get. If you do 2 out of the 3, you're probably going to get 2/3, 66% of the results that you could potentially get. If you do all 3, you are putting yourself in the best position to get results. Now, with that being said, and again, results will be things like maybe get out of pain, maybe lose the weight, maybe balance your hormones, whatever it may be. There's always a factor here, and this is where I think a lot of people, there's reasons for this, and I'm going to dive into those a little bit. There are a factor here that we overlook all the time, and it's the time component. So the time component being this: we have become pretty soft when it comes to duration. And what do I mean by that? Too often now people will do something for a week, 2 weeks, and say, look at that, it didn't work. Well, folks, man, that's where I think we're getting too soft. Nobody got sick overnight. People think that happens. Oh my goodness, Tom had a heart attack. I can't believe it. No, it doesn't happen that way. Oh my goodness, out of nowhere, he got cancer. No, it doesn't work that way. It just does not work. None of that stuff works that way. It may come by surprise because we're not looking, but chronic diseases, type 2 diabetes, 10 to 20 year disease, probably 30-year disease. Cancer, 20 to 30-year disease. Neurodegenerative diseases, 20 to 30-year disease. Cardiovascular disease, 20 to 30-year disease. And those are the 4 horsemen of disease. That is 80% of our country headed that way. So with that being said, when we're trying to unfold these things, we probably should let time be our friend, not our enemy, meaning that we got to look at an opportunity to sustain whatever we're doing over the long haul. Now, why do I think that we're becoming pretty soft? And I think there's a million reasons. One, I think, well, I'll give you an example where we're getting soft. And I think that in the big picture, we're not looking at the unfortunate results or the unfortunate road and path that we're taking by something right now that is getting bonker results for people. And everyone is thinking that it's a great thing. And I'm talking about things like the GLPs, the Ozempics, and all of that, the Mounjaros, and all that stuff. So let me explain this very clearly. I'm not against it. The challenge I have with it being in healthcare for 30 years is that we are lowering the expectations for effort and health. We are lowering the bar so far down that we're now saying the thing that most people coveted the most, which was having a body that they liked, literally physically and visually, to be in an ideal weight, is very, very hard to achieve that. Ask anyone who has a body that they've been working on for long periods of time, decades upon decades upon decades, and they're getting good results. These three things I'm going to talk about today, they've got these three things down. And it is relentlessly hard. And like many things in health it is inconvenient, it is uncomfortable, and oftentimes you got to continue to travel into unfamiliar territory. The challenge we have now with these, we've basically said to people, no, you don't have to work. It doesn't have to be hard, and it doesn't take any time. This is the new expectation. And in the big picture, set aside all the benefits right now for the fact that losing weight and literally improving some lipid levels and all the other benefits that come. The standards that we are lowering in terms of effort to get outcome, in my mind, in the way I see things, this is a slippery slope, and it's going to crash for us. Because this thing you've been trying to achieve, for many people, folks are trying to achieve a thinner body, et cetera. And it's so hard because there's so many lures, and you have to be so relentless at doing it. And all of a sudden, you start taking a couple shots. Literally, you take a couple shots, and within a month, you've dropped 10, maybe 15. Some people are losing 25 pounds. Yeah, this is a slippery slope. Now what happens when they have heart disease? Now what happens when they have some other challenges? Now what happens when they have to deal with maybe a cancer or neurodegenerative diseases? The expectation is everything's going to be fixed by a shot, and that is a real thing. All right, with that being said, I digress a little bit, but I want to at least put that out there and say, listen, the truth is that being healthy it's going to be inconvenient. It's going to be uncomfortable, and it's also going to be unfamiliar. And with that being said, I will tell you, it's freaking worth it. You're worth it, because there's nothing that feels as good as effort, outcome, reward, meaning that you've earned your stuff, right? So with that being said, that is why when you plug through and you're able to overcome things. That's why there's so many practitioners and people out there professing certain ways of getting healthy. The reason they're doing it is because they've had these bad, hard challenges, life-threatening challenges. They've overcome some disease or dysfunction in their body, and now they're telling the story of how it is. And no one's saying, man, this was easy. No one says that. They say, this was brutal. This was so hard, and here's how I did it. So I'm going to share with you three things here today. That the three things, if you get one of them good, if you get two of them, awesome. If you get three of them, that's going to put you in a position of getting things in terms of results the best. And again, if you're listening to this and you're wondering, whatever you're working on, maybe you're working on an autoimmune condition, maybe you got a thyroid challenge, maybe you got gut issues, is a huge one because there's no quick fix to that. If you have some of these issues, hear me out on this, and I'll tell you to keep plugging along. I want to give you one more analogy here. This is often what happens. Let's just say you roll to the gas station, car's not running too good, you fill it up with gas, and you put the right gas in, and you go to turn it over, and it's kind of sputtering. Do you take that gas out, or do you decide, well, that gas didn't work for me? No. Often the gas was the exact thing that you needed, but you had to go work on something else. Maybe you had to go clean the carburetor. Maybe you had to change the filter, something else. Too often we bail on some of the good things that we're doing because they didn't create miracle results overnight. So keep that in the back of your mind as we do this. We'll go through these pretty quick. So I'm going to break down to three things: how you eat, how you move, and how you think. The eating part, this is probably going to be the biggest challenge for everybody. In this same category, the eat part, I'm also going to put your supplements and a lot of the other things that you supplement in to try to create better health here. So eating at the end of the day goes like this. If you're diagnosed with cancer this morning, which I pray none of you are, tonight, do you think you're going to have alcohol? You're going to think you're going to celebrate with a cocktail? Hell no, you're not. That would be freaking stupid to do that because you know alcohol is a poison. Yet sometimes we don't use that reason on a day-to-day basis of not to choose to have the alcohol. We go, oh, it's no big deal. I'm not dying, so therefore I might as well just have another one. And when I start dying, maybe I'll take it away. And at some point, hopefully, we start to shift that. So the food and alcohol are going to be the hardest. But I will also tell you, I don't know anybody, including myself, that eats clean that regrets eating clean. It just doesn't work that way. I do not regret waking up not drinking alcohol the night before. And I know that sounds silly. And I was with some people this weekend. We were having a conversation, and one of the guys showed me a text from his wife, and his wife said, "Wow, this is amazing what you can do when you're not hungover." So because the guy was with me at the seminar, and the wife was at home. She'd already got the car clean, got the kids out, got an exercise in, did a yoga class, and did all that kind of stuff because she didn't have any alcohol. That being said, folks, the result, whatever you're doing right now, maybe you're taking a little bit of some extra supplements. Maybe you're taking some peptides. Maybe you're doing some amino acids. Maybe you've changed up a couple things. When you get it dialed in all the way in with your food, you're going to get the best results. 70% of all of your health goals, whether you're trying to avoid the 4 horsemen, maybe whether you're trying to overcome autoimmune conditions, whether you're trying to lose some weight, 70% of all your results will come down to the food that you do or do not put in your body on a daily basis. Now, when I get to number 3, you're going to see how important this is about sustainability. Number 2 is just how you move. Humans were designed to move. We are not designed to do what I'm doing right now, is sit on my butt and talk for long periods of time, and then do it again for a couple hours, then do it again tomorrow or 5 days straight, and maybe have the weekends off or something like that. That is not a natural human thing for us to do. There's so many plays that happen, so many things that happen when we just literally get up and walk and move. And this is a fundamental that inherently more and more people are doing less of. I'm very fortunate. I live down here in a community, in a kind of a culture down here at the beach that is just conducive. Like, you get outside, because when you go out and start driving up and down the road, their sidewalks are full of people riding bikes and walking. It kind of gets to you a little bit, and you're like, well, why don't I go out and take a walk? And so it's, again, who we surround ourselves with, and the people and the communities that we have often will dictate how much we're exercising. And I'm also going to slide this in. If you're exercising, fantastic, but it is not enough. Exercising 1 hour a day, then being basically sedentary the other 23 hours, it's not super healthy. It's not what humans do. So my subtle, maybe semi-selfish approach would be, hey, listen, go out, rescue yourself a dog, and make sure you walk your dog 3 to 5 times a day, and make sure you get outside, move, and get some sunlight. So we got to eat right. We got to put the right food in our body. And just a quick reminder here, what does that mean? Single ingredient food. So do not overcomplicate this. And I understand that sometimes, or not even sometimes, a lot of us get confused because there's so much input from the internet out there. And the beauty is this. I think that just the fact that we're hearing it is good. And now we want to narrow it down. And here's what's going to be crystal clear across all the boards, whether you hear someone talk about being a vegetarian or a carnivore diet or anything in between there. Here's what we all agree on, that eliminating all the processed food, eliminating the crap is a good idea. Reducing or completely eliminating sugar is a good idea. And we don't have to make this that complicated. All you need to do is go to the grocery store, buy foods with one ingredient. That's it. You pick up some chicken, it says chicken. You pick up celery, it says celery. That's it. Just stick to one ingredient foods. If you can make it organic, do it. If you can find a farmer how they're taking care of their food, awesome. If you're able to get some eggs from me, quite frankly, probably the best eggs in the world. My chickens are fed like kings. So find better food sources along the way. Eat foods with one ingredient. And this is going to be the hardest thing that you do, hands down. Your supplementation. So if you're a doctor, whoever your natural care provider, your functional nutritionist, your functional medicine doc, your chiropractor has provided you with a protocol. Hopefully that protocol, the supplements are of high quality. And this is what I know about protocols. If you don't take them, they don't work. I know that sounds silly, but it's 100% true. If you do not take them, they do not work. And folks, they are not drugs. They are supplements. They are replacing mineral deficiencies. They're replacing vitamin deficiencies. They are helping us repair things instead of taking long periods of time. They're helping us narrow down that time frame. Maybe you have to repair some of your adrenal glands. Maybe you have to repair the way that your body absorbs collagen. Maybe you have to heal up leaky gut. These things take time. So that's why we call them supplements. Are they supposed to override everything we do? And will they override a bad diet? They will not. So I know about supplements and I know about herbs. And listen, these are the keys to expedite what's going on in our bodies. Yet it will not override a poor diet. And if you're trying to just use your supplements to override a poor diet, your results are going to be very, very limited. So last but not least, so the first one, we know we got to eat right. Then we have to move. You got to get your body out and move every day. Here's one of the things I'm going to recommend for you for metabolic health. Make sure you move after every time you eat. There's an old saying in Ayurvedic medicine. It's a saying and a word that has meaning, and it's called Shatapavali, and which means that you take 100 steps after eating. It's a very interesting concept coming out of India. And I think, I think this is the way I assume that this came about. So they don't eat cow there. That's like a sacred cow. So therefore, if you don't eat meat, you eat a lot more carbohydrates. Just like people in our country, we don't have a lot of vegetarians. We have a lot of carbitarians. And so that's very much the situation in India. We have a lot of carbitarians. And as a result, we just see a lot of people that lean toward type 2 diabetes. So somewhere along the way, with brilliant wisdom, said, man, if you walk after you eat, your metabolic system, your insulin will take that sugar out of the bloodstream, and instead of putting in a fat cell, it'll put it into the muscle because the muscle's being activated. So don't let anyone tell you that walking after eating is not just not going to do much. It does. Metabolically, it's monstrous for every one of you, whether you're 20 or 120 years old. It is very, very effective to make sure that your glucose that is floating around in your blood has a destination where it's not going to harm you or potentially make you a little bit fatter. So with that being said, activity is huge. If you are then saying, what else can I do? Put on some muscle, baby. That's the name of the game. The more muscle you have, the more metabolically healthy you will be. And certainly when it comes to aging, you are going to be better off with more muscle on your body than less. All right, now last but not least. So that is eating and moving. And the last, and definitely not the least, is the mindset. So again, we're trying to get all three of these down. And if you get 1 out of 3, then you can kind of say, well, this is why I'm getting these results that are kind of maybe a little bit slower, a little bit tempered relative to some other people. And then so in the third one here is mindset. And there's so much we could talk about in mindset, but for the purposes of this conversation and getting results, the mindset that I think is going to be the most important is the mindset of sustainability, which means that this is not grit down and beg, wonder, and pray for this moment to end. Follow me? So if you've decided to clean up your diet and you go on an elimination diet, meaning you've eliminated the processed foods out of your diet, you've eliminated, the potato chips and the crackers and the muffins and the pastas and the glutens, just all that crap that just inflames us. In the short term, yes, it might be a little bit uncomfortable. Yet I don't know anyone who's removed all that stuff and regrets it. I know that for most people say, yeah, I'm not going back. I will not cross that bridge back to the other side because on this side, I'm starting to find and see the version of me that could be the best version of me. So I'm going to encourage you that the mindset is not, I tried that and it didn't work. If you're using a provider, someone that you trust, hopefully, that has a reputation of getting people, success and whatever that you're seeking right now, hopefully you go to someone like that and trust. You have to give them a little bit of trust in the sense that they have a plan and a map for you. And if you shortcut it and say, well, I tried that, it didn't work, probably you're just cutting yourself short. A lot of us have been down these roads in terms of how to help heal up guts, how to overcome autoimmune conditions, how to correct lipid panels, how to reverse type 2 diabetes. I was asked the question this weekend, what percentage of people, I think there's what is my success rate with type 2 diabetes? And I had to think about that for a second. And my response was exactly what I'm talking to you about today. If I get them to go all three, they go all three in, they're going to move better, eat better, and think better. I cannot think of a single case of type 2 diabetes that we haven't corrected or erased. And that's a big statement, but I don't know there's a single case. Now, if someone just takes the supplements, and there are some phenomenal ones like berberine, which is one of my favorites, and digestive enzymes like Zypan, and these are all super beneficial. But if you don't move after eating, especially after the biggest meal like dinner, you're going to have low success. But if you do move, we're going to have great success. And the mindset is, this is going to be the new version of me. And that's why I will continue to, as many times as I can on my podcast, or if you're a patient in my office, remind you that, listen, to be healthy, it is convenient, it's uncomfortable, and oftentimes it's unfamiliar. That's why you are where you are. That's why I've been the roads I've been challenged with, and the different things I've had to deal with my own personal health, because I was unfamiliar with how I got there, or where to go is probably a better way of saying it. So therefore I had to reach out and find someone who's had success in that category. So thinking about results here, anything that you're looking for in life. Hey, listen, this is the exact same thing that applies for when it comes to our businesses, right? We don't pop a business up and all of a sudden think, oh, in month 3 that it shouldn't be successful. If it's not, I'm going to quit, right? You just don't do that. Think of your body as a business as well. The 4 horsemen of disease, minimum, all of those took probably minimum 10 years, but most likely 20 and 30 years. So to unwind those, and to become metabolically healthy, to improve your immune system, to become the version of you that's the best version of you, which I think very few people have ever experienced that, because that means you would have to have dialed in your diet clean, and maybe at least for 6 months, maybe to a year. And you have dialed in anything that was deficient. You've taken care of all the toxicities. You got rid of them, all the leaky gut you've healed up. And then you start to move good. You start to figure out how to increase mobility, strength, stamina. And you get your mind right. You get people out of your life that don't serve you. You start to associate yourself with people that operate out of love on a daily basis. Then all of a sudden, you see a version of you that you've never seen before. And then that momentum right there, you don't want to go back. I shared with the audience this weekend. Listen, if I never have a beer and pizza the rest of my life, I'm okay. If you told me that on day 1, when I started my health journey, I probably would have quit right there. Yet in this, where I am in my life right now, I do not miss that stuff. I'm okay with it. And listen, if that sounds like a big leap for you, know that there's a lot of steps prior to me getting to say that. And yes, the truth is, sometimes we make some organic cauliflower crusted pizza with some olive oil and pesto and some grilled chicken. Yeah, but just, we're not going down to local Pizza Huts and grabbing a big deep dish. Maybe on my deathbed, but certainly not while I'm kicking and trying to be the best version of me. All right, well, hopefully, folks, this is something that you can sink in a little bit and understand. No matter what it is about your health, the next part of you, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, and it's okay. And I warn. I think, yeah, I'll even say it this way. I warn everyone to be careful of trying to make everything too easy when it comes to our health. There's nothing with our health that, if it comes really easy, that it's probably going to be sustainable, and therefore probably set ourselves up for not wanting to work hard down the road because we got something just handed to us. So just be mindful and careful of that. So we want to get better results. Think about how you're eating, the food that you're going to put into your body. 70% of your results are going to come back what you do over the long haul. And I'm not talking 3 weeks, folks. I'm talking about over this year and next year and the next, several years, with the food that you put into your body, the supplements that you're using. Sounds silly, but listen, supplements, if you do not take them, they do not work, especially if you've been, given a protocol, a very specific protocol for some of the things you got going on. Make sure you're moving your body every day, several times a day. We should be outside. We should hopefully get our eyeballs connected with the sun early in the day, put your feet on the ground. Just that by itself would balance probably half our country's hormones. And then last but not least, let's make sure our mindset is in the direction of, this is a long haul for me. This is for me to inch toward the best version of me every day. All right, with that being said, folks, keep doing the thing, keep sharing out, keep spreading love, and of course, continue to take the absolute best care of your mind, your body, your overall wellness. God be awesome.